My girlfriend lied about going on a trip with her friends, and I just found out she was hiding something much bigger. I found out my girlfriend isn't actually on a trip with her girlfriends like she said she was. Am I cooked? Hosted /era_lying locate. My girlfriend Amy, 24F, and I, 27M, went on our first date about 1.5 years ago. Took things slowly while being exclusive, and have been officially dating for 1 year. Overall, the relationship has been pretty good, aside from some small hiccups in communication that she attributes to her neurodivergence. Amy isn't great with texting, which I initially thought was a red flag until I found out she's like that with almost everyone, including most of her friends and family. To give a little background, Amy and a few of her girlfriends attend this conference a few states away twice per year. It's a 2-day event, which they usually turn into a 5-day vacation because it requires a flight and hotel, and it's in a nice city. Amy's friend group is typically very active on social media during these trips, posting on their Instagram stories at all points, flights, conference, beach, etc. This weekend was supposed to be their 3rd time attending. Amy and her friends had their flights and hotels booked for a few months, as confirmed by some of their posts on social media, expressing excitement about having everything booked. Unfortunately, the conference was canceled, but since they had already booked everything, they decided to still enjoy the vacation. My girlfriend and I had a date night last weekend. She was telling me how excited she was for her trip. Everything was good, but at the end of the date, I caught a glimpse of Amy's phone. She was on her airline app, and it looked like she was reading cancellation policies. We had a long day, and I was tired and felt like I was snooping/being nosy, so I didn't say anything. During the week, I asked Amy to hang out the day before her flight, emphasizing that I wanted to see her before her trip. Unfortunately, she was meeting up with her group of coworker friends, so she couldn't. No worries. On the morning of her flight, I texted her, wishing her a safe flight and a happy trip, and she liked my message. We haven't talked since. As I said, she's not a big texter, so we usually don't text much besides planning dates and in emergencies. I figured she was on her trip, so I haven't texted to plan a date. Now on to the main issue. Amy is supposed to be a few days into her trip, and I noticed that none of her friends were posting on Instagram. I thought that was weird because they usually post a lot, but I shrugged it off. That was until tonight. Amy started posting videos of herself at a show. It looked fun, and I didn't think twice about it, until the ending, where the show host called out, "Thank you," followed by the name of the major city near where we live, about a 30-minute drive. I looked up the name of the show, and sure enough, it was in that nearby city this weekend. Meaning she wasn't on that vacation after all, and never thought to mention it to me. I did a little snooping on Venmo, and found out that over 2 weeks ago, Amy's friend paid her back the money that Amy had sent her for the hotel and car rental. So, she's known the trip was canceled for 2 weeks, and hasn't said anything to me, even when I brought it up. Where do I go from here? I feel like I'm suddenly spiraling, overthinking everything lately to see if I've missed any signs. I've already started assuming the worst, and I'm panicking. I'm out of town for the weekend, and this has completely thrown off my trip. Is this worth a conversation? Or is the relationship already over? Is there any reason she wouldn't have said something by now? Even if she tells me the trip was canceled when I see her before I confront her, would that still justify not telling me until after the trip? Please, any advice is greatly appreciated. Thank you. Edit. Her best friend just uploaded a picture of them together during the show, so I know she wasn't there with some other guy, but that still doesn't explain the lying. Update 2.5 weeks later. Hey everyone, I had some DMs asking for an update, so here it is. I've been a wreck and spiraling these past few weeks, and after being together for almost 2 years, I was too panicked to reach out and ask to see her. During the 3 weeks since her planned trip, she hasn't reached out to me once. That was until yesterday, when she casually reached out like we hadn't just ignored each other for 3 weeks, and asked if I wanted to see a movie. So, I finally saw her tonight. In the car, I asked about her trip. Her facial expression was really weird, like she was caught off guard. I'm guessing she expected me to forget about it after a few weeks of not seeing her. She just said it was okay, which instantly confirmed my suspicions. I asked her what she had done, and she said she went to the conference for 1 day, which, as I mentioned in my last post, was canceled, and then went to a show before returning home the day after I made my original post. I asked her which show, and she claimed it was the one that had been in our local city. I was driving at the time, and it was dark out, so I waited to confront her because I didn't want to get emotional and endanger us. When I finally did confront her for lying about the trip, doubling down about the conference, and tripling down about the show, her immediate response was to start deflecting. She said that if this was making me upset, I should imagine how she felt that her conference and trip were canceled. She mentioned how heartbroken and upset she was about the cancellation, which happened 5 weeks ago, and that she didn't want to talk about it. She kept saying that she doesn't owe it to me or anyone else to share her business or what's going on in her life. I, of course, called her out for gaslighting me, to which she responded by saying she wasn't gaslighting me. Kind of ironic, I guess. When I explained how it made me feel and how she damaged my trust in her, she belittled my feelings again, rolling her eyes and saying it was only a show. This conversation ended up opening up a much bigger issue in our relationship that I hadn't in my last post, maybe due to denial. Generally, Amy treated me really poorly throughout the relationship. She was hot and cold, put zero effort into communication, and it never felt like she made me a priority. She gave me no affection or compliments, despite gushing over male celebrities all day. She made little effort to connect me with her family and friends. We've talked about all of this a few times, and she would always say she was overwhelmed, with some new excuse each time, and promise it would get better. I would cave in and agree to work through things. As expected, things never got better. This time was the same. She blamed a new job for being overwhelmed, and that's why she's been so distant. But this time was different. I guess her blatant lie to my face, combined with your comments in the back of my mind, gave me the strength to finally put my foot down. I broke up with her then and there. She kept begging me for one more chance, asking me to think it over for a few days, saying she cares about me and didn't intend to hurt me, all that nonsense. But the whole time, I was the one bawling, and there wasn't a single tear on her face. It really broke my heart to end things, but I've also grown to hate myself for putting up with her treatment for so long. I'm hurting a lot right now, and I'm scared to get back into the dating world after 2 years of aging and some weight gain. I really loved her with every bit of my heart, and I'm terrified to picture my life without her. I really want to call her up and give her one final chance to make things right, but I know I'd never forgive myself if she didn't change and broke my heart again. I'm hurting badly, and I could really use some words of encouragement right now. Thank you all. Commenter. Op said she is neurodivergent, and I'm finding a lot of people using this as an excuse to treat others poorly. Oh, I have poor communication skills, etc. It's become such an easy cop-out for avoiding accountability for one's crappy, hurtful actions. I had an ex who decided at one point to self-diagnose with autism so he could constantly use it as an excuse for belligerently disregarding people's feelings. He had demonstrated for years prior that he was perfectly aware of how hurtful his behavior was, he just didn't care. Suddenly, he claimed he had no idea. The mother fudger was an absolute manipulator. He always knew exactly what effect his actions would have and did it on purpose. That was one of the final straws that led our whole friend group to jettison him. Actually, because everyone's response was, "We've met autistic people before," and "No, you definitely aren't." I've never met an actual neurodivergent person who, if you plainly tell them that something they said or did was hurtful and explain why, wasn't immediately remorseful and apologetic for causing hurt, even though they had no idea they were doing so. Most neurodivergent folks don't want to hurt anyone and are mortified when they realize they have unknowingly done so. The ones who just say, "Oh well, I'm neurodivergent, so you have to deal with it, whether real or fake," are just colossal jerks.